This father gave up his stable job and left his son at the daycare. Then he hurried to the adoption agency, preparing to give his son away to be raised by someone else. When the staff learned about this, they were shocked. They thought this father was being incredibly irresponsible. The man could see their confusion, so he painfully explained the reason.
I don't want him to think about it. To understand death.
It turned out that John had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and his life would end in less than 3 months. His wife had abandoned him right after their son was born, and had never been heard from since. He truly had no other choice. He couldn't imagine how his 3-year-old son would survive alone after his death. Hearing John's heartbreaking story, the staff felt deep sympathy and regret. They then asked him to fill out the adoption forms according to the procedure. After that, he went to the daycare to pick up his son Michael and take him home. But today Michael, who was usually well-behaved, suddenly threw a tantrum.
What are you doing under the table, Michael? I'm sorry.
Hearing his son's complaints, John felt even more guilty. He had seen other children surrounded by rooms full of toys, while his own son had nothing but plates to play with. Despite the guilt, he sometimes couldn't stop himself from scolding his son. That day, he noticed that his son had taken the yogurt he hadn't finished. John tensed up immediately and snatched it away. He then sternly warned his son never to touch anything he had eaten again. John was terrified that his illness might be contagious to his son, but Michael couldn't understand why his father had suddenly become so strict. To him, it felt like his father had changed, like he was busy trying to get rid of him. The first adoptive family lived in a luxurious house. The couple looked kind and polite, expressing sincere affection for Michael. They promised to send him to the best schools and provide him with a comfortable life. John thought maybe leaving his son with them might be a good choice, but the man's next words instantly changed his mind.
Of course we can afford the best education for our son.
The couple already had children of their own. John realized his son might be treated differently and that they might never see him as their own. That was a risk he couldn't take. He couldn't gamble with his son's future and decided to think it over again. On the way back, on a pedestrian bridge, he gently asked his son if he wanted to live with that family. Holding back the pain of separation, he managed to ask the question. But Michael, with the innocence of a child, answered without hesitation.
I like home.
Hearing that, John was overwhelmed with emotion. He also wished he could stay with his son forever, but there was nothing he could do against the disease. The next day, when John dropped Michael off at kindergarten, the boy suddenly asked why other kids had mothers, while he didn't. Looking at his son's innocent and slightly sad face, John felt a crushing pain in his heart. He wished he could tell the truth that his mother had abandoned them, but reality wouldn't allow it. So he told a beautiful lie instead. Under John's comforting words, Michael continued to grow up peacefully. Even though John was tortured by illness, he still read bedtime stories to his son every quiet night. He still played with him in the park under the warm sunlight. He would stand beside the construction site, explaining the structure of the excavator to his curious son. Michael's eyes shone with happiness, and those moments became the brightest part of John's final days. All he wanted was to spend as much time as possible with his son, to make him happy in the short time they had left together. Although only 3 years old, Michael was heartbreakingly considerate. When he saw his father asleep on the couch, he would quietly cover him with his small blanket. When his father woke up, he would carefully bring him a cup of hot water. Then he would lean gently against him, silently keeping him company. But death kept reminding John that his time was running out. The sudden headaches made him realize he needed to arrange his son's future as soon as possible. The second potential adoptive family was a middle-class couple. They dressed neatly and smiled kindly. They told John they didn't plan to have children but wanted to experience what it felt like to be parents. So they hoped he would give them the chance to adopt his son. While they were talking, Michael noticed a cute stuffed bunny on the table. Trevor, the husband, noticed this and kindly offered to give it to him.
Do you like him, Michael? His name's Jimmy.
That small, thoughtful gesture deeply moved John. It made him think this family might truly be trustworthy. But as they were leaving, Lorraine, the wife, secretly signaled her husband to take the toy back. John's heart instantly sank. He hadn't expected that beneath their polite appearance hid selfishness and coldness.
Michael, Jimmy lives here. But maybe you could come and play with them another time.
Michael, will you say goodbye to Jimmy?
When he will let me pass him by.
After taking back the stuffed bunny, Lorraine finally looked relieved. At that moment, John made up his mind. He would never hand his son over to such a couple. If they couldn't even part with a toy, how could they ever truly love a child? On the way home, the series of disappointments felt suffocating. Then his son suddenly asked a question.
What's a dog, Daddy?
The tender voice echoed down the quiet street, cutting straight into John's heart like a sharp blade. He didn't know how to answer, so he looked into his son's innocent eyes and said, "Adoption means if a father isn't good enough, you can change to a better one." But Michael didn't agree.
I don't want to adopt.
Before John could say anything else, Michael ran off. He followed the line of spilled paint on the ground, walking in a straight path. Maybe that was his small way of escaping the sadness. At this moment, John's eyes were slightly wet, his heart filled with guilt and remorse. He had always believed he was a failure as a father, unable to watch his son grow day by day and unable to witness every important moment in his son's life. He wished time could be more forgiving, but the scythe of death never waits for anyone. He could only turn all his blessings and hopes into one simple piece of advice.
Don't fall, Michael!
That morning, as the sun rose, John forced his frail body to try walking in a straight line like his son did. He wanted to understand what his boy felt inside, but the reality of his illness made even the simplest act of balance impossible. Every step he took was filled with pain and struggle. The frustration he had been suppressing finally burst out. He became irritable and kicked the car parked by the roadside in anger. He realized that his time was truly running out. He might not live long enough to find the right family for his son. The stabbing pain and frequent vomiting constantly reminded him that death was drawing closer with every passing day. But a father's love is unshakable. Even with the scythe of death hanging over his neck, he fearlessly kept building a better tomorrow for his son. The third adoptive family was a large and diverse household. The couple already had several biological children, along with a few adopted ones. They emphasized that they treated all the children equally and promised that this would be their final adoption. But as they spoke, John noticed one of the boys in the family had no manners at all, muttering bad words and showing no respect toward his parents or their guests. The youngest child in the house also looked at Michael with hostility. His eyes were full of warning, and the timid Michael quickly hid his toy. Michael then turned to his father with fear and uncertainty written all over his face. At that moment, John already had the answer in his heart. He understood that his son would not receive enough love in this home. If so-called kindness meant spreading affection too thin, then his son would live in a house that seemed warm on the outside but was cold within. That kind of happiness wasn't real happiness. This time John chose to follow his son's feelings and declined the adoption. His time was running short, yet he still didn't know how to tell his son that he was going to die. For little Michael, such a heavy topic was far too abstract. He couldn't understand what death really meant until one day, a turning point appeared. Michael pointed at a dead beetle on the ground and asked why it wasn't moving.
It's dead.
Let it go.
I can't. It's dead.
Hearing the question, John didn't try to hide the truth behind a comforting story like most parents would. He gently told him that the beetle's soul had gone away, leaving behind only its body. At that point, he couldn't continue speaking because the sorrow inside him was too overwhelming. The last adoptive family was a single woman named Ella, who lived alone. Her life was like a tragic novel. In her youth, she had dreamed of love and happiness and welcomed her first child full of hope. But because she and her boyfriend were too poor, the welfare agency eventually took the baby away. When she was finally ready to be a mother again, she discovered she had health issues, and her husband abandoned her because of it. Despite all these hardships, Ella still wanted to adopt a child, to be a mother once more. She wanted to pour all her remaining love into that child, to make up for what she had lost in her youth. As she spoke about her story, she opened a small bag of colorful candies and poured them out in front of Michael, telling him to treat them like tiny stones for his toy truck. John could tell that Ella's financial situation wasn't good, but he didn't mind. After all, he had never been rich himself. John, too, had been a child born into hardship. When he finally grew up and was about to start a happy life, misfortune struck again. That was why he so desperately wanted his son to live a better life. On his way home, John saw a young boy waiting to cross the street. The boy held his head high and walked with confidence and ease. John's gaze was unconsciously drawn to him. He kept watching until the boy's figure grew smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. That encounter felt like two chapters of life, his and his son's. One was like the rising sun, full of possibility and hope, about to begin a brand new story. The other was like the setting sun, slowly sinking into the river of time, heading toward the end of life. And the most heartbreaking part was that these two lives were unfolding at the very same moment. The next morning, John arrived at the adoption agency one last time, clinging to a final hope. He wished the staff could help him find his son's biological mother, because after all, she was the boy's mother too. But Shona, the caseworker, said that a woman who had once abandoned her child no longer deserved to be a mother, because she would most likely make the same mistake again. John looked at Shona with eyes full of pleading and hope. She didn't answer, but her eyes shimmered with indescribable emotion, as if 1,000 unspoken words were hidden in the tears about to fall. That day was John's 32nd birthday. The last birthday he would ever have in this world. He and his son made a chocolate cake together, placing 32 red candles on top. Then Michael suddenly brought him one more red candle. Seeing it, John felt a deep ache in his heart. He knew he would never live to see another birthday, but he still realized something. He knew this was his son's reluctance to let go.
Is this for me?
John turned his gaze toward him, and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. That smile perfectly captured his pure yet conflicted feelings in that moment. Conflicted feelings in that moment. That same day, he quietly shed tears behind his son's back. Later, he walked alone onto the overpass, his tears blurring his vision, along with his future. At this moment, countless memories flooded John's mind, and all the beautiful moments from the past replayed like a movie inside his head. But reality was too cruel. He had less than a month left to live. Time no longer allowed him to keep searching. So he returned home and gave his son a bath one last time. This time, he didn't rush. He just sat quietly by his side, watching him with gentle eyes. Then he took out the new pajamas he had bought for his son, a final expression of his love. But this time, the usually obedient Michael threw a tantrum. No matter how John pleaded, he refused to put them on. It was as if the little boy had sensed something. He sensed that this was his father's last gift. He sensed that once he put it on, his father would be gone. The more he thought about it, the sadder he became. And he started throwing away all the gifts his father had prepared for him. Even his favorite toys were tossed aside. It was Michael's first real outburst. John froze for a moment as he watched, but then, understanding what his son was feeling, he smiled instead. Michael was beginning to learn what it meant to face loss. Not long after, under the warm glow of the light, they made up again. John sat beside his son, drawing with him in the book. He used this quiet moment to comfort the boy's fragile heart. Then, he asked him a question.
What are you putting in that lorry there?
Books.
He realized his son still remembered the woman who had given him those colorful candies. And John, too, recalled the look in Ella's eyes when she saw Michael, so full of love and longing. After much thought, he finally made his decision. To John, a real family didn't have to be defined by blood nor by material perfection. It was defined by pure love. Sometimes a single look was enough to say everything. Adoption wasn't about replacing someone's place in a child's life, but about finding a new vessel for love, so that love could continue to live on. Then John began to take care of his final affairs. As he drove past the church and the cemetery, the sound of the bells seemed to welcome his arrival. The silence of the graves reminded him of life's fragility. This time, he didn't go inside to pray. He wasn't sad anymore. With a peaceful smile, he left, accepting everything as it was. He had come to understand that accepting death is the final lesson for those still living. Finally, John sold his beloved car and used the money to take his son to an amusement park. They played every single ride they had once hesitated to try. That day, laughter and joy filled the air, something they hadn't felt in a long time. It became the happiest day of their lives, a perfect dream that a father wove for his son with all his remaining strength. Before entrusting his son to his new mother, he followed Shona's advice and carefully prepared a memory box. Inside, he placed 15 letters, one for each of Michael's future birthdays. He included photos of the two of them together and the red candle. Before placing it inside, John lit the candle. Even though he knew he wouldn't live to see another birthday, he still wished for just one more year. Just one more year. He also added the only photo of Michael's mother. John felt that, at the very least, his son should know he wasn't truly an orphan, only that his mother had lost her way somewhere. Then he placed his work cap inside, along with the window cleaning tool he had used for years. These were the last tokens of love from a dying father to his child. He hoped that when his son looked at these things one day, his heart would not be filled with sorrow or resentment, but with beauty and hope. The next morning, John took his son through the familiar streets and boarded a bus heading toward Ella's home. He let his son press the doorbell of his new mother's house. This would also be his new home from now on.
Hi, Michael. It's so lovely to see you again.
Michael didn't greet her politely. He simply raised his head slowly, his eyes firmly fixed on his exhausted father. In his father's bloodshot eyes, there was nothing but hope and blessing. And in Michael's mind, those words his father had once told him echoed again. Soon, I will leave my body, just like the beetle. You won't be able to see me then, but I will still be with you. I will be in the air around you, in the sunlight above you, in the rain that falls from the sky, and even in the grape flavor you love so much. The drifting clouds in the sky are me. The fish swimming in the river are me. The scent of soil in the park is also me. You may not hear me speak, but I can always hear your heart, because I am always here. This is a true story. The end of life has never been death itself. It is being forgotten by the ones you love. Perhaps fathers all over the world are the same, loving silently, giving endlessly without ever saying much, just like the title of this film, Nowhere Special. I don't know what kind of father you have. Maybe he's the kind who works hard every day without a single complaint. Maybe he doesn't know how to express his love. He never says sweet words. Most of the time he stays silent. There are no poems in his world. His notebook only records the days he worked for others. His hands are covered with calluses. He's not good with words. He doesn't know how to say anything beautiful. He is ordinary, unable to give me everything. Yet, he has given me all that he has.